Hi, this is a quick summary and log of some repair works done on a braking system. This system is will be called a hydraulic braking system, and this particular vehicle has discs all around. You can see here and here, this is how you can quickly tell if there's discs on the rear or not. This configuration is obviously discs. And the issue with this one was the brake light warning symbol come on the dash, and that remained on for a period of time. And at the time there's no immediate issue with the brakes nor the fluid. It just got progressively worse, and then it seemed to drop fluid as well. So therefore I went looking for a leak in the system, and I just searched the whole system for a leak, and the only thing I could find was on one of these calipers on the front drivers. This is the rear now we're at the moment. This would be your hydraulic hose coming into the caliper unit, and then at the back of this hole there's a wee little banjo bolt, and there's two copper washers on against that caliper in between the hose, and one of them copper washers seems to be weeping a bit. So I just tightened it up, and that's the only thing I could find. So I really hope that's it, because I put a bit of work into this, trying to find out where that leak was. I searched every individual line, and it's the only thing I could find. And I also stripped each one of these calipers down. What's involved in stripping these down is you just take off the bolts set up here on the top and the bottom, and this unit just comes out and you can inspect it. There's a little piston that moves in and out in the back of this, and when it moves in, then it compresses the pads like so around that disc, so to go in that motion. So anyways, checked over the whole system, and as I said, that's the copper washer. It's the only thing I could find. It took a couple of hours, and how I found it was there seems to be just a wee little weep of fluid, hydraulic braking fluid around that washer. So again, I hope that's it. So therefore I'm ready to go back on the road now and give it a test, and hopefully that's it. So therefore I originally started bleeding the brakes. If you don't have anyone around, you can get a couple of these self bleeding brake tools. Typically and originally someone would press the pedal for you, the brake pedal, and you manually bleed it. But nowadays there's a few of these tools in the market. This one is just a hand pump, and it works on the principle of a vacuum. So this is just a wee little vacuum valve here, and then after that you connect your little pot, which is this one, onto the vacuum, and then you connect this little insert onto the bleed nipple on the caliper on the car. To be honest, I found that utter rubbish. There's a few different makes of them on the market, so I hope the rest of them are not as bad as that. Not very user friendly at all, and it wasn't particularly cheap either, so I just wasn't a fan of that. Then I moved on to this one, and this is the Sealy one. It works on mains pneumatic pressure. That's coming in at about 100 psi, and this one cost about €50, and I think it's very good. I really like it. I just like the easeability and the use of it. It's really easy to use on your own, so it's a bonus. But you do need quite a reserve of air, because it seems to go through a lot of air per minute. I think the data on that is pretty high as well, so I think that's just the way it's designed. So you probably would want a cylinder, I assume, of about 200 or 300 litres. And that again is 200 or 300 litres of air in reserve. That'd be pretty much ideal for running something like that. And probably set it up around 100 psi again. And anyways, what you do is you connect it up and just lock it in position so it runs, and when it's expelling air out of the chamber, it just creates a vacuum, and it vacuums this hose, meaning it'll pull anything from that line. And when you're pulling anything from the line, you want to draw all the air bubbles, and that's what you're doing effectively. You're just bleeding the whole line down into the chamber and then expelled out, and then you're just left with just a little bit of waste fluid. Now it's nice to call this a flush as well, so that won't be going back in the car, because it's nice just to get a flush of your brake fluid whenever you can. So we'll take this opportunity to say that's a flush, so we don't mind when we have excess fluid building up there. So that's a positive, I guess. And so then you just connect up onto your bleed nipple. That's the bleed nipple there on the caliper. When your system is running here, I like to create a vacuum first. I run the unit, and then while this is running, then I just get a 10mm spanner and crack open that bleed nipple, and then you'll see the bubbles come through. And I do recommend, in an ideal world, on that bleed nipple itself, I think takes in a little bit of air, or I should say it's not a full airtight seal. So if you had the time, you could strip out all them bleed nipples and pack them with PTF tape or some sort of a sealant, tread sealant, so it doesn't actually let air in through there, because I do think that's a bit of a weak point, and therefore it probably doesn't be, you know, you could call that a weak point in the procedure, but I don't have the time for that now. So that's one flaw on this setup, and I think regardless of the price of the tool, that may always be the case, but hopefully this is just enough to get me going. So what is next? Now, the way I went around this was you come from your brake master cylinder, and this car goes into an ABS assisted braking unit, which is in the engine bay, and then from there it gets spidered out to each 4 corners of the car. So this is the furthest one away from that ABS unit, so work furthest away first and then start working back, which is the next closest then after that, and keep moving on. And when this is running, then it obviously pulls brake fluid from the brake reservoir, so leave the cap off and keep a good eye on the reservoir dropping, because you don't want air getting into that via the reservoir, so make sure that's topped up and running. And that's just pretty much it. So I hope this was helpful, and thank you.